Obviously, we've heard a lot of terms, omni-retail, omni-channel, but can you explain what you mean by total retail?
Yeah. Well, total retail, you're right, and everyone's heard about omni-channel, and they understand about where the market's shifting and how the consumer is going to shop differently. But they're not necessarily sure how to change their business to adapt to some of those things. We hear about disruptive technology all the time. So in the retail space, we tell people that's what omni-channel is. It's the application of digital technology in the retail and consumer space. The challenge is, so what should I do with my business differently? How am I going to operate my organization differently? So what total retail really is, it's two things. It's first to go out and look in the markets. We went out to 23 countries and surveyed 25,000 shoppers about how do you use this technology and how do you interact with your favorite brands, how do you interact with your favorite retailers, and how are you using technology to do this?
And if I'm not mistaken, there were about 1,000 Canadian consumers.
Absolutely right. So 1,000 Canadian consumers, and that's a great point, because what we wanted to do this year, because it's an annual look, is to get a sense of how it's starting to change and evolve. And what are the telltale signs? What are we seeing in other markets that we might start seeing in the Canadian market soon, or it's not quite here yet? As we know, we're typically a fast follower type market, where we're not always the first out there to put the latest innovation out there, but we're certainly quick to adopt it afterwards. So what we're starting to see through this survey is we looked in 4 key areas. How are people engaging with retailers? How are retailers promoting their offers and engaging and keeping that conversation going with the shopper? And then how are we setting up our channels, and how are people interacting within these channels? And then really interesting, the 4th area is, how am I building a support capability within that organization? What am I doing to my store associates to allow them to be empowered, to operate in this sort of environment better than they would have in the past? So when we started looking at that area, we looked at how the shopper is interacting with these brands. And it's quite fascinating to see, for example, in the emerging markets, let's say in China, for example, I think it was 52% of everybody had hit a buy button in a social media page. And we haven't seen much of that at all, if any, in Canada or the US just yet. So you start to see how people are interacting differently. I mean, really what we're seeing is the Canadian shopper, and to some degree the North American shopper, wants to continue to shop the way they shop today, but in a better way. Where we're seeing in the emerging markets, people want to shop differently. They want to take a different type of approach on how they interact with these brands, and they're looking to different types of technology platforms and different types of social media platforms to interact with these brands. So when we start looking at these markets, we say, well, will the North American market start to shift to that direction, or we continue to be 2 distinct markets? And I think right now we're starting to see that shift. And we're starting to see that shift really in the area around personalization. And how are we engaging with that consumer? How are we looking at them with regard to how do we communicate with them in their community that they're part of? So how, as a retailer, do I connect into your social community and say, listen, I've got something to offer within your conversation right now. And if we skip all the way to a WeChat situation in China, within that WeChat conversation, you can say, look at this great jacket. That's an interesting jacket. I can hit the buy button, and then we just keep talking.